Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ardan Imam Rashid, and today I'm gonna talk about capital budgeting. Without further ado, I'm gonna straight to the point. Capital budgeting. In most companies, capital budgeting is one of the main sources of profit for the company, because with capital budgeting, they can calculate the level of profit they will get in the long term. Capital budgeting is a term that we often hear when dealing with money, but often the term capital budgeting is misinterpreted as a tool for calculating profits only. Even though capital budgeting is not just. Therefore, we must really understand the meaning of capital budgeting so that the interpretation is not only limited to seeking profits but making investment decisions that will have a good long-term and short-term impact on the company. In a company, a financial manager must really understand this capital budgeting is because a manager will decide the investment that can be invested to have a good impact on the company. In most companies, capital budgeting is one of the main sources of profit for the company, because with capital budgeting, they can calculate the level of profit they will get in the long term. Capital budgeting is a term that we often hear when dealing with money, but often the term capital budgeting is misinterpreted as a tool for calculating profits only. Even though capital budgeting is not just that, therefore we must really understand the meaning of capital budgeting so that the interpretation is not only limited to seeking profit but making investment decisions that will have a good profit, long-term and short-term impact on the company. In a company, a financial manager must really understand this capital budgeting. It's because a manager will decide the investment that can be invested to have a good impact on the company. And next, capital budgeting objective. The first, know the meaning of capital budgeting. The second, know the importance of capital budgeting. The third, know the stake of capital budgeting. The fourth, know the benefit of capital budgeting. The fifth, know the approach to capital budgeting decision. Sixth, know capital budgeting decision method. Next, meaning of capital budgeting. Capital show fixed asset used for production. Budget is a detailed plan that the project cash inflow and cost outflow over several periods in the future. It's the entire process starting from planning to making a decision to spend a certain amount of fund investment where the return period for the fund exceeds 1 year. In the book Business Budgeting by Gunawan Adisaputro and Junita Anggreni, it is explained that GARGARAN is a planning process that includes analysis and selection of various capital investment in fixed asset in invest fund that will be received back in full by the company over several years gradually. Installment through depreciation. Net cash flow process is the difference between the net cash outflow required for new investment and the net cash inflow as a result of new investment. Next, importance of capital budgeting. The first capital budgeting decision will have an effect over a long period of time so that the company loses its flexibility. The second, effective capital budgeting will increase the timelines on and quality of additional assets. The third, expand to treasure very important capital budgeting stage. Project cost must be determined. The second, management must estimate the expected cash flow from the project, including the final value of asset. The third, the risk of project cash flow must be estimated using cash flow probability distribution. The fourth, by knowing the risk of the project, management must determine the appropriate cost of capital to discount the project cash flow using the time value of money. The expected cash inflow is used to estimate the value of asset. Sixth, finally, the present value of the expected cash flow is compared with their cost. Next, benefit of capital budgeting. The first, to find out more detailed funding needs because the funds are tied to a period of more than 1 year. The second, so that there is no overinvestment or underinvestment. The third, can be more detailed and thorough because funds are increasing in a very large amount. The fourth, prevent errors in decision making. Approach the capital budgeting decision. There are two main approaches in making capital budgeting decisions. These approaches are influenced by the company financial condition. Asset project approach includes evaluating capital expenditure proposal to determine whether this proposal can be accepted or not. This approach is quite simple because it only compares the criteria possessed by each proposal with the minimum criteria that have been previously determined. This approach will be very suitable for companies have unlimited funds. Ranking projects based on predetermined criteria. For example, projects will be ranked based on their respective rates of return. The project with the highest rate of return will be ranked number 1, and the one with the lowest rate of return will be ranked last. Next, the first payback period method. The payback period is the period required to recoup the expenditure on an investment using the net cash flow process obtained kind. The first, very easy to apply, indicate projects that require a long time to return capital. The second, measuring the liquidity of a project. If liquidity is an important factor for the company. A weakness, the first, not paying attention to the time of money value. The second, not paying attention to cash inflow after the payback period, so it cannot be used as a measuring tool. Net present value, NPV. Investment appraisal method that use discount cash flow considering the time value of money in cash flow that occur now with cash outflow that will be reserved in the future. A formula where key O, investment value at net cash flow in period, R, discount rate time period, B, kind. The first, take into account the time value of money. The second, take into account all cost flow over the life of the investment. So thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.